Before attempting to transform the world around you, before seeking to repair others, the single most crucial individual requiring your attention is yourself. Your personal path, your evolution, your mental framework. These form the bedrock upon which everything else in existence stands. Without first making an investment in your own development, without grasping your true identity and genuine desires, no measure of achievement, acclaim, or acknowledgement will ever bridge that emptiness. I wish to reveal to you today why prioritizing your own healing isn't an act of selfishness. It stands as the most transformative choice you can make to revolutionize your existence and ignite inspiration in everyone surrounding you. Before attempting to transform the world around you, before seeking to repair others, the single most crucial individual requiring your attention is yourself. And I'm not referring merely to your external presentation or your professional credentials. I'm speaking of your psyche, your spirit, your patterns, your principles, every element that constitutes your being. Because here lies the reality, regardless of your efforts to assist others, regardless of how much you contribute, regardless of how accomplished you seem outwardly, without having first invested in your own foundation, you're essentially constructing a dwelling on unstable ground. Everything will eventually collapse. Self-knowledge isn't simply trendy terminology. It represents the cornerstone of every significant action you undertake throughout life. Understanding your assets is necessary, but equally important is recognizing your limitations. You must identify what triggers your anxiety, what ignites your rage, what generates your happiness, and what authentically propels you onward. Until you address these elements, any attempt at success or inspiration will remain incomplete, and internally, you'll sense something missing. Repairing yourself doesn't require achieving flawlessness. It doesn't involve measuring yourself against others or attempting to satisfy external expectations. It requires accepting accountability for your development. It requires recognizing that your contentment, your self-assurance, your tranquility, and your calling won't be delivered to you by external sources. These belong to you to seize. And seizing them starts with internal examination. And certainly, it's challenging. Confronting your own imperfections demands bravery. Facing the aspects of yourself you've neglected or concealed. Acknowledging the difficult realities regarding your behaviors and decisions. Yet that's precisely where metamorphosis originates. Right there before your reflection, during the silent instances, when nobody observes, when only you and the honest truth about your identity remain. When you repair yourself initially, everything else naturally begins organizing itself. Your connections enhance because you're no longer pursuing approval or affection from external sources to satisfy an internal emptiness. Your professional life blossoms because your concentration, self-control, and mentality remain solid, not because you're pursuing someone else's interpretation of achievement. Your influence expands because you've synchronized with your calling, and you're no longer attempting to impress or satisfy others, but rather to contribute, to motivate, to guide with genuineness. You understand, authentic power doesn't originate from acknowledgement, wealth, or position. It emerges from internal fortitude, self-regard, and precision of perspective. And that's precisely what you develop when you make yourself the priority. I need you to retain something extremely significant. Repairing yourself isn't self-centered. It's essential. It represents the most profound demonstration of care you can offer to yourself and those around you. Because when you're stable, self-assured, and conscious, you appear completely in every circumstance. And the vitality you contribute becomes a beacon for others. You transform into someone who doesn't merely endure difficulties, but ascends through them. Who doesn't merely articulate motivational phrases, but embodies them. Who doesn't merely fantasize, but executes steady, deliberate movement toward those aspirations each and every day. Therefore, today I encourage you to initiate that beginning move. Examine yourself truthfully. Recognize your anxieties. Welcome your flaws and dedicate yourself to your evolution. Because nothing external can substitute the force of internal metamorphosis. Repair yourself initially, and you'll discover that the world doesn't require your perfection. It requires you to be complete, attentive, and unstoppable. And once you accomplish that, nothing remains beyond your reach. Now let's address fear. Because fear represents something constraining countless individuals. Fear of failure, fear of inadequacy, fear of others' judgments. I need you to comprehend that fear is natural, but it cannot serve as your life's steering force. You must confront it directly. You must face it continuously. Confidence isn't innate. It's constructed piece by piece through action, through persistence, through appearing even amid uncertainty. Each instance you push beyond fear, each instance you advance despite mental doubts, you're repairing yourself. You're fortifying the aspect of yourself that remains unshakable. The aspect recognizing your value even when the world questions you. And this creates all the distinction. You'll never evolve by awaiting perfect circumstances or external permission to radiate. Development occurs when you accept responsibility for your existence, when you choose to guide from within, when you pledge to becoming your optimal self, independent of others' opinions. And indeed, repairing yourself requires examining your patterns closely. Your daily actions define your current and future identity. Do your patterns facilitate growth or create obstacles? Are you encircled by individuals who elevate you? Or are you exhausted by pessimism and uncertainty? Are you nourishing your mind with motivation? Or are you trapped in perpetual comparisons and self-condemnation? The reality is nobody else can modify your patterns for you. Nobody else can select your surroundings, your mentality, your perspective toward existence. That authority belongs solely to you. And when you claim it, transformation becomes unavoidable. Repairing yourself also involves learning forgiveness, not only toward others but yourself. We're all human. We commit errors. We falter. We unintentionally cause pain. And sometimes we damage ourselves through our own language and behavior. Retaining bitterness, culpability, or disgrace only burdens you. Genuine development arrives when you release what you cannot alter, when you embrace your history as an educator rather than confinement, and when you commit to yourself that each day offers fresh opportunity to improve, to be superior. When you forgive and liberate, you create capacity for confidence, precision, and tranquility to infiltrate your existence. And that's how you authentically repair yourself. Most significantly, repairing yourself initially involves synchronizing your behaviors with your principles. It's about experiencing an existence that feels genuine to you, not one dictated by cultural demands or external judgments. It's about comprehending what holds greatest importance, what you represent, and executing choices that respect that reality. When your existence aligns internally, everything externally begins reflecting that synchronization. People will observe, possibilities will materialize, and your vitality will magnetize the appropriate experiences, connections, and obstacles that facilitate further growth. Therefore, treat this moment seriously. Look internally, contemplate, and commit. Your transformation commences with the resolution to make yourself priority. It commences with self-knowledge, bravery, and action. It commences with understanding that you deserve it, you're capable, and you possess the authority to determine your own fate. Repair yourself initially and you'll witness how everything else in existence begins organizing itself naturally. Because when you're complete, stable, and internally powerful, the world doesn't feel threatening. Obstacles transform into possibilities. Difficulties transform into teachings. And your capacity, your genuine boundless capacity, can finally radiate without hesitation or uncertainty. Everything you require already exists within you. You simply need to access it. And that commences by repairing yourself initially. Now let's address consistency. Because repairing yourself isn't a singular occurrence. It represents a daily pledge. It exists in the minor, seemingly mundane selections where your transformation genuinely begins. It's in rising with intention, in selecting kind self-dialogue, in resolving to invest effort even when unobserved. The world frequently celebrates spectacular displays and instant success. But reality demonstrates that significant growth emerges from appearing day after day, even amid difficulty, even amid discomfort. Every minor act of self-enhancement accumulates over time. Every resolution to respect yourself, every movement toward becoming stronger, more knowledgeable, and more understanding represents a brick in the foundation of the existence you're destined to experience. This defines repairing yourself initially, pledging to your own evolution consistently without justifications, without postponement. Repairing yourself also involves claiming ownership of your feelings. Existence is unpredictable. People will disappoint you. Situations won't always proceed favorably. But your response to those obstacles, your emotional processing, your chosen actions amid adversity, this remains entirely within your jurisdiction. You cannot always alter what occurs, but you can manage how you manifest. You can select patience over irritation, endurance over hopelessness, and appreciation over bitterness. This isn't simple. It requires practice. It requires contemplation. It requires bravery. But when you begin controlling your internal realm, you cease becoming a casualty of external situations. You begin directing your own existence from a position of strength, precision, and purposefulness. And let me emphasize, repairing yourself initially doesn't signify withdrawing from the world or dismissing obligations. It signifies appearing in every domain of your existence with genuineness and intention. It signifies cultivating connections, pursuing your objectives, and contributing to the world from a position of synchronization rather than duty. When you're centered internally, you naturally motivate others toward the same. Your vitality becomes attractive, your confidence infectious, and your influence substantial. People don't pursue perfection. They pursue bravery, consistency, and genuineness. And all of that commences with investing in yourself initially. Another critical component of repairing yourself involves embracing your distinctive path. Comparison represents one of happiness's greatest adversaries. It will trap you in self-questioning, irritation, and needless pressure. Your route belongs exclusively to you. You may stumble. You may encounter diversions. But every experience, every obstacle, every victory is molding you into the individual you're destined to become. Respect your path. Acknowledge your advancement, even the smallest achievements, because each forward movement proves your dedication to yourself. Finally, I need you to remember that repairing yourself represents an act of empowerment. It's selecting to control your existence rather than awaiting external delivery. It's acknowledging your own strength, your own capacity, and your own value. It's declaring to yourself daily, I am capable, I am sufficient, I am prepared to evolve. And when you exist with that mentality, everything transforms. Your behaviors, your connections, your possibilities, they all mirror the vitality you maintain within. You become unstoppable, not because existence suddenly becomes simpler, but because you're now prepared to face it with bravery, precision, and endurance. Therefore, initiate today. Pledge to yourself. Invest in your evolution. Confront your anxieties. Respect your patterns. Claim ownership of your feelings. Embrace your path. Because the world doesn't require you to repair everything else initially. It requires you to be complete, stable, and empowered. And when you accomplish that, everything else begins synchronizing. The existence you've perpetually envisioned is anticipating. But the initial movement is always to repair yourself initially. This is your authority, your obligation, and your fate. Now let's examine the most crucial element of all, belief in yourself. Belief transforms effort into accomplishment, and it commences long before external recognition of your capacity. You must perceive yourself clearly, not through the perspective of fear, uncertainty, or others' expectations, but through the perspective of potential. You must trust your capability for growth, transformation, and magnificence, even when the road ahead remains unclear. Belief isn't naive positivity. It's recognizing your value, welcoming your imperfections, and dedicating yourself to your path regardless of barriers. It's declaring to yourself, I can accomplish this, repeatedly until it becomes an unwavering reality in your core. Repairing yourself initially also involves patience with your own evolution. Transformation doesn't materialize instantly. It's the outcome of repeated effort, learning from errors, and maintaining dedication when progress feels sluggish or discouraging. There will be instances when you feel immobilized, when you question whether your work produces results, when abandonment seems simpler than following someone else's route. But this is precisely when you must persevere. This is when you must remind yourself that the most significant relationship you'll ever maintain is with yourself. Invest in that relationship daily. Cultivate it with self-maintenance, contemplation, and purposeful action. The stronger you are internally, the more resilient, confident, and unstoppable you become externally. And let me clarify, repairing yourself initially doesn't signify disregarding others' needs. It doesn't signify abandoning compassion, kindness, or responsibility. Conversely, when you're stable, when you possess clarity regarding your principles and priorities, you're capable of serving others far more meaningfully. You become an inspiration source, support, and guidance because you're acting from synchronization rather than duty. You become someone who guides by demonstration, not by directive. People gravitate toward genuineness, bravery, and consistency. And those attributes can only emerge when you're dedicated to yourself initially. Repairing yourself also involves welcoming transformation. Existence is dynamic, and your growth demands flexibility, inquisitiveness, and willingness to venture beyond comfort boundaries. You may need to abandon patterns, connections, or convictions that no longer benefit your highest self. This can be frightening and uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Growth demands movement, and movement demands bravery. Each movement toward becoming your optimal self constructs momentum. Each selection you execute to prioritize your principles and your wellness transmits a powerful message to yourself and the world. I command my existence, and I won't accept less than my potential. Finally, remember that repairing yourself represents a lifelong expedition. It's not a terminus but a continuous process of self-exploration, learning, and enhancement. Even as you accomplish objectives, overcome obstacles, and create your desired existence, opportunities for further growth will perpetually exist. And that's exhilarating because it signifies your capacity is boundless. Each day presents fresh opportunity to strengthen your mind, nurture your core, refine your patterns, and synchronize your behaviors with your calling. Each day offers opportunity to respect yourself, to invest in your evolution, and to create a ripple effect of positivity, bravery, and inspiration throughout the world. Therefore, I encourage you to initiate now. Don't await the perfect instant because it may never materialize. Don't await external permission because the authority already resides within you. Pledge to your evolution, confront your anxieties, embrace your path, and claim ownership of your existence. Repair yourself initially because when you do, everything else synchronizes. Your connections flourish, your profession thrives, your worldly impact becomes substantial, and most significantly, you become the individual you were perpetually destined to be: complete, stable, empowered, and unstoppable. The world anticipates your optimal version, and that version commences with repairing yourself initially. Now, as we consolidate everything, I need you to genuinely sense the authority of what repairing yourself initially signifies. Because here's the reality: nobody else can execute it for you. Nobody can experience your existence, execute your selections, or transport your aspirations for you. You're the creator of your narrative, the commander of your vessel, and the designer of your fate. And the most significant initial chapter, the one establishing the atmosphere for everything else, commences with you. It commences with bravery, the bravery to examine inward, to confront your anxieties, to acknowledge your limitations, and to acknowledge your assets. It commences with responsibility, the readiness to cease blaming situations, cease awaiting permission, and initiate controlling your existence with precision and determination. Repairing yourself initially also involves embracing your genuineness. Cease attempting to become what the world desires you to be. Cease molding yourself to satisfy external expectations or achievement definitions. There's authority in being unapologetically yourself. There's strength in synchronizing your existence with your own principles, enthusiasms, and calling. The world doesn't require another duplicate of someone else's achievement interpretation. The world requires you, your distinctive vitality, your voice, your perspective, your brilliance. When you respect yourself this way, everything else begins synchronizing. Possibilities, connections, and experiences arrive naturally, not because you're pursuing them, but because you're stable in your reality. And let me emphasize, repairing yourself initially represents an act of care. It's the supreme form of self-regard and compassion. When you invest in your evolution, your wellness, and your calling, you're not merely benefiting yourself. You're benefiting everyone surrounding you, because the vitality you maintain within radiates externally. When you're powerful, confident, and synchronized, your family, friends, colleagues, and community sense it. Your impact becomes more substantial. Your language carries more significance, and your manifestation becomes an inspiration source. You cannot distribute from an empty vessel. And repairing yourself initially ensures your vessel overflows with strength, precision, and calling. It also signifies endurance. Existence will test you. People will question you. Situations will examine your patience and bravery. But when you've invested in yourself initially, when you've constructed that internal foundation of confidence, self-knowledge, and self-control, you become unstoppable. Obstacles no longer seem like barriers. They transform into stepping platforms. Failures no longer represent defeats. They transform into teachings. And fear no longer dominates you. It transforms into propellant, pushing you further. Repairing yourself prepares you to confront existence with elegance, determination, and unwavering conviction in your own capacity. Remember, your path is uniquely yours, and it's saturated with infinite potential. There's no perfect instant to initiate. No ideal circumstances demanded. The sole requirement is your dedication to yourself. Initiate with minor movements. Contemplate your patterns. Test your anxieties. Cultivate your mind and body, and invest in your evolution each and every day. Over time, those minor movements will accumulate into incredible transformation. You'll observe changes in your thinking, your behavior, and how the world responds to you. You'll sense more confidence, more empowerment, and more vitality than ever previously. Therefore, today, I challenge you to initiate that beginning movement if you haven't already. Resolve to prioritize yourself, not self-centeredly, but intelligently, powerfully, and purposefully. Resolve to repair yourself initially so that everything else in your existence can flourish naturally. Resolve to believe in yourself, respect your path, embrace your genuineness, and pledge to lifelong evolution. Because the individual you're becoming anticipates you, and the world anticipates witnessing your optimal version. You possess the strength, the bravery, and the authority inside you already. You simply need to claim it. Repair yourself initially and observe how everything else organizes itself. The existence you envision, the impact you aspire to create, and the individual you're destined to be. All commence with that singular selection to invest in yourself completely and without hesitation.